if you're in the United States, you now have another option. I know it seems like moving forward, uh, phones have left the US market, some left the global market because of rising costs. And let's face it, it makes it harder to make a profit when you're selling an item, especially a high price item, and especially if you're importing it into the United States, you get taxed heavily. Prices for your hardware, for your suppliers, uh, shooting through the roof. So it's essentially they can't make a profit. That's why they're pulling out of the US market specifically, but some global markets. Well, now we have a new option, and that option is Fairphone. Now, I've always seen Fairphone in online articles. I don't even think I've seen a YouTube review of this Fairphone. Looks decent, but they just launched, available right now today, the Fairphone Generation 6. Gen 6. So we're going to pull up the specs. We're going to check it out. We're going to see what they're packing. Pause. We're going to see how much it costs. And is it a viable option for you? Because you never know, it might be, right? So let's go ahead and pull up. I already got everything loaded for you today, so we don't have to waste any time. Fairphone Gen 6. Where did it go? Yo, why can't I get these? What is going on? Yeah, there we go. Okay, Fairphone Gen 6. Let me move this over here and let me pull up my screen here. Okay, we got it. So they look, you right off the bat, you see the price, $649. And you see the style with her holding it up to her ear. I'm not gonna lie, it's not a bad looking phone. And look at it. I'm talking about style wise. We'll get to the specs in a second, but just the style. So check this out. So here's what it looks like. First off the bat, I love the color. I love blue and yellow combination. I love that color combo. So I think that's good. Secondly, what about the camera? If you're one of those users, I love aesthetics. I love the way stuff looks, layouts, designs. Camera wise, you can't have the cameras go down the left side. Samsung has that look. You can't have the triangle, which they kind of have it in a triangle, but everybody knows what the iPhone looks like, where it looks like this, like the case, right? You got those three triangles just like that. You can't copy them. And Google has them all across the top, right? So I see why they placed the camera sensors like they did. Makes sense to me. So I think it looks good, right? So it passes the looks test, and I mean, it doesn't look bad. It could look worse, right? Look at Nothing. The Nothing Phone 3, an absolute horrid looking device. So it looks better than the Nothing Phone 3. I'll give you that. But it looks decent, right? So you're saying, okay, upon first thought, I like the color. I think it only comes in one color combination. No. I take that back. They have green, black, and blue, right? $649. Now let's go down some of these specs, because I know some of you might be interested, some might not, but we're gonna fly through these. Another thing you see right off the bat, I'll give it to their marketing department. I think they do a good job of. It's my first time ever visiting their website. Ever looking into one. I've always heard of them, but never looked into it. I'm not a mid-range phone buyer. I guess I, make exceptions for the Nothing Phone 4A Pro and the 3A, but those only get service with T-Mobile. I don't even consider them a good option at this point, because only one carrier works with them. But hopefully Fairphone doesn't have that issue. I've never heard of anybody using one, but maybe if you have, please let me know in the comments below. Right off of the bat, 12 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage. That's good news, because I heard on the Gen 5 it only had 8 gigs of RAM. So unlike Google, who's reducing the amount of RAM, at least in the base models, they give you 12 gigs right off of the bat. They actually increase theirs. Now I'm sure the price went up. I don't know how much the fifth generation cost. I'm assuming it was less than $650, probably $599 or $549. So I'm sure it came with a price increase as well. But what else are you getting with that 650? Well, you're getting a 5-year warranty. Now it has an asterisk by the warranty, so who knows what that really means. But it's got 12 replaceable spare parts with high ease of repairability. Sustainable design will with support until 2033. I don't know what sustainable design means. Are they talking about software support until 2033? Who knows? But I like the fact that they display its repairability. Sort of like the framework laptop. I've always wanted a framework laptop, never pulled the trigger on one. And if you're unfamiliar with what a framework laptop is, it's essentially a laptop where you can, it's very user friendly when it comes to upgrades. So if you buy a framework laptop and 3 years down the line you're like, you know what, I need a new stronger CPU, well, you can go buy a CPU and take the old one out, pop the new one in. If you need more storage, it's all expandable. Keyboard, I think, is expandable. Essentially, not every single thing is replaceable or upgradable, but a large, portion of that device is. Now, you can't necessarily upgrade the storage in the Fairphone. You can't necessarily upgrade the display or the CPU, but at least they let you replace the battery on your own. If you go on hikes a lot, if you go on vacations a lot, if you're out of the house a lot, out of the office a lot of time, you can buy. That was a good thing back in the day when you had replaceable batteries. If you know you're not going to be around a charger for a long period of time, you can go buy an extra battery or 2 batteries, charge them up in anticipation for you leaving the house or the office, and then you got your phone with a full battery plus 2 spare batteries in your bag. That's pretty dope, because I don't think any other phone offers that. So it does have that going for it, right? That's pretty cool. Now it says delivers in 2 to 6 days, so it is available right at this moment. 14-day free trial. Let's check carrier compatibility, and we'll run through the rest of the specs. So it does not work on Verizon. It only works on T-Mobile and AT&T. So that goes for T-Mobile MVNOs as well. That goes for AT&T MVNOs as well. And it says 5G. It says local tower density in the deployment of standalone and non-standalone 5G. Okay, yeah, we get that. Supported T-Mobile. Okay, so that's good. Here on their website, I wish nothing would do this. Of course, theirs would look embarrassing. It's probably why they don't do this, because only T-Mobile would be supported. But it gives you, so if you don't have a traditional carrier like a T-Mobile, let's say you have Mint Mobile, well, you can go on here and, oh yeah, it'll work. Metro, oh yeah, it'll work. So, well, I guess it only fully works with T-Mobile's, and AT&T, it only partially works. Interesting. So it probably does not support all the bands. Yeah, and that's exactly what it says down here. Probably should have looked at the website before I started talking, but it's answering all the questions. So whoever works for Fairphone, if you're watching this or if you watch this after we are live, I want to congratulate you, because your website, this is the first time I've ever visited your website, and you're answering all my questions right off of the bat. So I think whoever built and or constructed this website did a fantastic job. They're answering a ton of questions right off of the bat. So that's good to see. Now let's get back to some specs, because that's what everybody wants to see. So there's 12 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, and guess what? Supports a microSD card. Wow, what do you know? That's another way these companies can mitigate the increase in these storage costs. Look, I don't have to have a 512 or 1 terabyte. Give me a 256 gig, but let me have expandable storage, and I will provide the extra storage. I'm okay with that, quite honestly. I haven't used expandable storage in an Android device in years, so I don't know what apps allow you to save app data in expandable storage. I know some do and some don't. I just don't know, did most of them jump off of that expandable storage train and it's device only, or now that the memory costs are going sky high and people are looking for expandable storage to take from device to device, are these apps and these developers going to allow us to store more app data uh, in this external storage? I have no clue. I hope it goes that route. But it says up to 2 days of battery life. Now I got to scratch my head at that. It's got a 4,400 milliamp hour battery. Now, is that 2 days of battery life? Is that on one charge? Is that on one battery? Because I think that's probably pushing it. Now, let's see what else it's packing. Software support until 2033, powered by Snapdragon 7S Gen 4. Now, this is the same CPU that's in the Nothing Phone 4a Pro. Same CPU. It's actually right about the same price as well. So it's not bad by any means. In fact, it'll allow you to do anything you want to do on your phone to a certain point. But I mean, just basic usage, you'll be fine. If you're a gamer, if you want to edit these 4K videos, it's claiming it'll shoot with its 50 megapixel main sensor. I don't know. I mean, it will do it. It'll just take all day probably. But you can get away with that. It's a decent mid-range CPU, right? It's not trash by any means. A brilliant 120 hertz. Now, this is a little smaller 6.3-inch OLED display. Water resistant, military grade drop tested. It's probably all plastic. Probably all plastic, but that's okay. Easy to replace up to 12 spare parts. 12 parts. So let's see. Dude, I get all of this. LTPO AMOLED. Resolution is 1116 by 2484, so 431 ppi. So relatively high for a mid-range phone. I mean, yeah, it's pretty good. It's not bad by any means. Aspect ratio 20:9, refresh rate from 10 to 120, brightness up to 1400 nits. Kind of low in today's world, but what do you expect? It's a mid-range phone. Wow, they put a 10-bit display on here. So remember at the beginning of the show when I said I was shitting on Samsung at the very beginning of the S26 series launch? This is why. It's because Fairphone puts a 10-bit display on a $650 phone, and Samsung only put a 8-bit display on their $1,500 phone. Yeah, little stuff like that, Samsung. Let's see what else we got. HDR10, cornering glass, Gorilla Glass 7i, olophobic anti-fingerprint, 240 hertz touch sampling rate. Let's see, PWM dimming at 1440 hertz, below 90 nits, DC dimming above, always on display, 84.1% screen to body ratio. And this is going to be a little on the smaller side. Remember, 6.3. So what kind of Bluetooth and Wi-Fi do we have? Let's see. It has 6E and 5.4. Not too bad. It's what I would expect from a mid-range phone. Now look at this. Google. Battery health. More than 1,000 cycles at 80% of normal capacity. Interesting. It looks like a decent mid-range phone. Fast charging, 27 watts, 30 peak. 50% 30 minutes, 80% in 45 minutes, or 100% in 85 minutes. It has fast charging. What else we got? OTG, charging temperatures, wireless charging not supported. Rear cameras, 50 megapixel, Sony Leica LYT 700C. What else we got? Video capture 4K at 30, 1080p at 30 and 60, and 720 at 30 and 60. Slow motion 1080p at 120 and 720p at 240 frames per second. Ultra wide 13 megapixel sensor, OmniVision OV13B10. Okay, what else we got? Front camera 32 megapixel Samsung KDI. Yeah, that's a budget sensor. I mean, look, it's gonna be it's a mid-range phone. What more do you want, right? For $650. Here's the question I want to know. Are you buying this or something like this, or would you rather spend the $650 on a OnePlus 13? Or would you rather spend the $650 on an S25 Plus? Right? Because you can find them. You can find them. And I know there was somebody in the comments saying, I don't like to buy used phones. I get that. I don't mind as long as they're not beat up. In fact, I've purchased a number of used phones. That necessarily doesn't bother me, but I know everybody's different. But if you want my personal opinion, just in the last few years, how these devices, is seemingly every flagship device, at least in the Android world, is now getting 6, maybe 7 years of updates. And OnePlus did 5 years of updates. Me personally, I would rather use and or purchase a used 1, maybe 2-year-old flagship phone. So that, again, that's going to put you right in around the OnePlus 13 models, maybe a OnePlus 15R. Because here's the thing. You're getting flagship specs, and it's all little things that you're still getting even in a 1-year-old phone, possibly 2-year-old phone. You're getting Wi-Fi 7. It beats this Wi-Fi 6E. You're getting Bluetooth, some 6.0, which beats this 5.4. You're getting a flagship display that'll go up to, 3,000 nits when this goes up to what? 1,300. You're going to get all flagship, supposed to be, flagship camera sensors in some of these flagships, while this has mid-range sensors. You going to get more power when it comes to the CPU, the GPU, all that good stuff. So I purchased a Nothing Phone 4a Pro. I was very excited for that. And I quickly reminded myself of why I don't buy mid-range phones. I quickly reminded myself, I'm like, why did I do that? If you're used to using flagship phones, buying something like this would be a downgrade, but I get it. I get it. Times are tough. Maybe you don't have the financial situation where you can be buying a flagship. This will do. Look, this is a nice basic phone, right? Good phone for kids. If you have a teenager, maybe it's their first phone, this would be a good one. Maybe if you have a parent that's getting up there in age, this would be a good phone, right? Aunts or uncles, grandparents. That's who I recommend these phones for. I don't necessarily recommend these for the tech enthusiasts, so to speak, because once you buy them, you're quickly reminded, that it's not quite the same as a flagship phone. All you got to do is basically turn it on and you remind yourself the vibration motor feels real clunky, and you're like, wow. So it is what it is, right? It's a $650 phone. Now,